Jai Gurudev, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about Maharishi Ayurveda's perspective on leukemia. A really difficult subject to talk about with a lot of clients because there's a lot of fear surrounding this, and so we want to make sure that we're extra careful and considerate about our clients' feelings. We really want to get to know our client, and that is why it's really important to follow the model of Darshana, Sparshana, and Prashna. We want to connect with our client and observe them. We want to touch using pulse diagnosis, maybe feeling the joints or even their abdominal region to see if there's any swollen organs that we might come across. And then also we would want to be doing a very thorough intake for our client. So our client today is a male, 40 years old, recently diagnosed with leukemia, and has quite a few concerns listed here: fever, night sweats, headaches, anemia, immunity imbalance, fatigue, loss of appetite, losing weight. He's bleeding easily, and his abdomen is swollen and painful, probably from an enlarged spleen or maybe other enlarged or inflamed organs. And here on the right we can see that different types of leukemia affect people. Some are more common in children, some are more common in adults. And let's go on and look at what cancer really is. It's irregularities in its cellular dynamic from a Western perspective. In this type of cancer, the DNA of the white blood cells is damaged, and that causes these white blood cells to grow and divide in kind of a chaotic manner. Normal blood cells are prone to die after some time, and then they're replaced by new cells that are produced by our bone marrow. But these abnormal cells don't die easily, and what they do is they accumulate, and this requires more and more space. And then when that happens, it leads to less space for the normal blood cells, so it starts pushing them out and suppressing them, and the client starts feeling ill. So it's at this point that the bad cells are overshadowing the good cells. And I wanted to talk about cellular dynamics and consciousness. And because we're MAV students, I thought that it was really important to think about the consciousness-based perspective of Ayurveda. And we can see through our learning that not every disease noticeably undergoes the standard process of Samprapti in its ordinary sequence. However, the cellular factors and pathological changes that occur with cancer patients may not appear to follow this process, but they do. And at the cellular level, each cell is a center of awareness. It's a conscious, microscopic life. And I wanted to throw in the idea of ahamkara here, the collective consciousness of our cellular body. So why would something that is seemingly normal and healthy and life-maintaining becomes so imbalanced? And we could think of that within our own body. Even if we don't have a chronic, life-threatening disease, we sometimes can fall into feeling imbalanced. Why does that happen? But especially in this case where the conscious principle and the primordial matter and creative potential are coming into imbalance. And so ahamkara, it's the central energy field that is present in every substance and maintains that thing's form, shape, color, and consistency. So you can think about something like a plum tree, and the seeds of that plum have never forgotten to produce a tree or its flowers or its fruits. And so ahamkara is like that plum tree, and it governs the specific forms, the flower and the fruit that are produced from the seed, never forgetting its intelligence. And so ahamkara is the energy that's responsible for creation of all forms and the specific arrangement of molecules. So if we look at our own bodies, at the time of fertilization, a single sperm, it fertilizes the ovum, and then division happens, and each cell is divided into two and continues multiplying and eventually creating this beautiful form of a human or any other creature. And what's true with the human being is also true with the rest of the animal and plant kingdoms, and that philosophy of creation can be applied at a cellular level. So every cell that has a definite form and function and structure is maintained by cellular ahamkara. So therefore the white blood cells have a certain form, red blood cells have a typical form, platelets and the nucleated muscle cells have specific forms, and so on. These are all maintained by ahamkara. Ahamkara could also be called self-esteem. We all have this self, this ego, this I version of ourselves, and we all have consciousness, but it's the consciousness of the millions and trillions of cells. Ahamkara is the collective consciousness of trillions of cells of our body. So there are some deep connection between ahamkara and the gross physical level and at the cellular level. So when it becomes disturbed, it can create a severe distortion in our physical body and even in our individual identity. So if somebody doesn't have self-respect or self-esteem, that person may become depressed or have an inferiority complex, and then they can become sad and even miserable, and that itself will slow down and affect the immune system and the person's metabolism, distorting that whole psychosomatic identity. And the same thing is true even at a cellular level. Each cell has its own self-esteem, its own self-importance. And if that cell membrane is clogged with ama, there's poor communication. And this cell is an isolated cell that becomes lonely, and that lonely cell starts to act independently, and it produces its own enzyme and its own agni, and then that cell goes on growing independently, and as a result it becomes malignant. So these cancer cells have a distorted self and a hyperactive metabolism demanding more metabolic output, attacking neighboring cells, and then they convert these neighboring cells into cancerous cells. So continuing on, what are we going to do for our client to integrate balance for them? First thing we want to do is bring attention to their diet. So we would want to check their pulse, see what's happening there, maybe instigate a mild amapachana, recommend light foods, mild foods, nourishing soups, perhaps more of a liquid diet for the first 4 or 5 days, and then have them come back and see us again and check their pulse for ama. And so when we're experiencing nirama, and there's no coated tongue, good bowel movements, light pulse, less fatigue, then some tarpana is appropriate for them. And we can encourage a vata pacifying diet that has items like dates and raisins, cooked veggies with ghee, but always making sure that we're being extra attentive to their agni here. That's really important because those subtle things can be really detrimental if we're not being attentive to that. And so now talking about restoring balance and enlivening inner intelligence with herbs, I really would strongly recommend Mapi's Amrit Kalash, and a double dose is what's recommended for people that are experiencing or undergoing radiation treatment and chemotherapy. And I would say that even while they're undergoing treatment, Amrit Kalash is safe because it is going to give them that rasayana effect. And there have been a lot of studies and research done with Amrit Kalash, and one of the things that I found really interesting upon reading about this particular herb compilation is that it neutralizes good cells and allows the malignant or damaged or mutated cells to die off when somebody is undergoing radiation and chemotherapy. So I feel like this is a really beautiful thing to introduce, and I also think that it inspires hope for the client to have something that they can take that they know is helping the healthy pieces of their inner intelligence stay intact while what's not intelligent is allowed to die off and leave. Some other herbs are Veda 2816, 2 teaspoons at morning and bedtime. Veda 2803, Brahmi Grita. Amla and Shatavari on an empty stomach in case the Amrit Kalash is too costly. MA 631, 2 tablets after meals. Calcium support to help their bone structure continue to be strong. Jadamamsi for pain. Guduchi is great for cleansing blood. Guggulu will help scrape ama, and it also cleanses the lymph system and is a rejuvenative. So that's really great. And then balancing through nature, enlivening inner intelligence with panchakarma therapy. So managing clients receiving chemotherapy, radiation, and post-operative. Some of these things I will hold off on until after they're done with their rounds of chemo, like Snehana. And I give some recommendations about the different oils one might use. But I love offering neem oil because it's so great at purifying the blood, and it's really calming. And it's good for pitta or kapha. But if you're feeling like there is excess vata, then I did recommend some sesame or medicated oil with dashmala or bala. Svedana is definitely a post-medical therapy that we could use, but we'd want to make sure that they're done receiving all of their treatments. And then there are a few essential oils that I list here. Shodana, detoxification, and we also use this after cancer treatments. If somebody's having absolute constipation, a mild basti is appropriate. Shamana, so pacifying the dosha in its home, which we're trying to do through diet and herbal recommendations. Rasayana, after Shodana and Shamana Chikitsa, we can guide our client to strengthen their immune system. And then Lepanas are applications of herbal paste, so topically applying different types of herbs made into a paste for antiviral effect, reducing tumors, anti-inflammatory effect, reducing swelling, and reducing pitta. And so balancing somebody's awareness when we're dealing with a client who is in a potential life-threatening situation, what can we do to help calm them and give them some hope and give them other things to focus on that will help enliven that inner awareness and that inner intelligence. So regular transcending, perhaps seeing a Jyotishi, Maharishi, Vedic vibrational technology, Yagya might be something that they would be interested in, and also gem therapy. Making sure that they're really consistent with meal times, they're going to bed early, getting up early, and spending time in nature and creating space for rituals that will calm and nurture them. Finally, I wanted to talk about treating our client, nurturing them, supporting them, and counseling them. We should know the dynamics of their disease and be attentive to the 3 doshas, the 7 dhatus, and the 3 malas. It's really important to support our client, listen to them, keep a positive attitude, focus on the imbalances and not the disease, and be open to dialogue with their primary care physician. So awareness about how those factors of the dynamics of their disease are involved in the samprapti. Creating a program that's achievable, something that they can do that's not going to be too overwhelming. And the treatment can change depending on the individual's samprapti. There's no standards for treatments for cancer or any disease really in Ayurveda because they're all dependent on somebody's specific dosha, dhatu, and malas and how they're interacting and the level at which that imbalance lies. And Ayurveda is really unique in that way because it gives emphasis to the individual, and we can't judge a person based merely on statistics, but really we have to look at what's happening within their body, within all the doshas and malas and the dhatus. So again, we're going to connect with them and observe them. We're going to touch them via their pulse, and we're going to ask questions to see how things are transpiring within their body. I think it's really beautiful, this quote from Maharishi, that all that is true and is real is always simple, natural, and life-supporting. And so all we need to do is keep things simple, and everything else will be balanced and will help our client achieve success in feeling better in their body when they're undergoing a situation of having one of these potentially life-threatening diseases. I want to give gratitude and Jai Garuda.